bad sociologists, or people who aren't really, they're not really focusing on it, are only going to think about the factors and forces that we don't see, the invisible strings that happen to us, right? That are organized, that organize our lives, right? For the two of you, it's like it's homelessness for you, it's near homelessness for you, it is not making rent money, it's like, also what happened before you were homeless, right? All the decisions, it's all the people in your lives, like all these things that happen. And then at the same time, it's choices. Because in every single day, the two of you are making choices. Are you going to go this way, or this way? So both are absolutely 100% true. And so people who are more liberal in their orientation, like people who are like social justice type people, they tend to focus on issues of inequality. And they tend to focus on the degrees to which things happen to some people. And they de-emphasize the choices that people are making along the way. So they would look at you two right here and they would say, look, you lived in this environment, which of course you were going to be successful. And it's like, no. In this environment, you're still making choices all along the way. It doesn't matter. And yet we turn around and say, yeah, but there is this other environment happening. So what is it? What's going on? And the fact is, the two things are fused together. It's always choices that we're making and things outside of our control. It's always happening together. Conservative people want to emphasize choices. People who offer or have a more conservative orientation in the way that they're being. It's all about choices. Like, look, you can grow up poor, the two of you, no matter what, you can grow up poor and you can overcome that. Just make good choices. Like work hard, get jobs, save your money, do everything you got to do, and you can overcome that, right? That is the way to do that. And what the problem is that people like the two of you who grew up in your shoes, they start, this is important. It's called taking responsibility, because what people who are often more conservative in their orientation will argue is the only thing you can do is take responsibility. And if you don't make it, then clearly you did not take responsibility for yourself. And the people who are more liberal in their orientation, right, the social justice people say, look, people would make it. They would be able to overcome the barriers that are in front of them if they would be able to make different choices if they didn't have the barriers in front of them. So remove the barriers and people will make different choices and then people will succeed. But the fact of the matter is neither one of those arguments holds water because both are true together. You have to see it together. So the conservative orientation is, hey, take responsibility, work harder, make better decisions, make different decisions, and then you will be better off. The more liberal orientation, and which is true, the more liberal social justice orientation is remove the barriers to upward mobility, growth, expansion, etc. If you just remove those barriers, then people will have a greater chance of succeeding, and then they will ultimately be more likely to succeed. But the problem is, you got to remove the barriers. And the other side says, no. You got to change people's thinking. Get people to take responsibility for how they're seeing the world. And over here it's, no. Remove the barriers. That's why liberal people are always talking about inequality and the barriers and, jobs and homelessness and one thing after another. It's always that. It's always the problems in society, right? We need fair housing and better housing because, those are the things that people like you all, people who are poor, need. So give them an equal opportunity. More conservative people are saying, no, we don't need that. Look, just like the two of you, like you didn't need that. You just need, all you had to do is make the decision to succeed and you will succeed. But I don't have two people in here who grew up like the two of you who did not succeed, who weren't able to make those choices, right? And I don't have two people in here like you who are maybe they're in college, but they're screw-offs, right? Like, you both graduated them with people, right? Can I assume the two of you? You graduated with people who had every opportunity and they're just throwing it away. Okay, we didn't bring them in. It's not an automatic ticket. Growing up with money is not an automatic ticket to success. Growing up without money is not an automatic ticket to a life of misery and suffering and struggle. They go together. And what happens is, once we start talking about personal choices, if I'm in this conversation, this is what I was going to do when I had you stand up. If I have this conversation about personal choices, I turn my back on the other one. And if I have the conversation about the obstacles, because there are obstacles, we live in a very unequal world. You've already seen some of the data. The United States is incredibly unequal. If I start talking about all the obstacles, then in order for me to really explain and articulate all the obstacles and stuff, right, to really lay it out and do a good job, what that means is I have to turn my back on the personal choices. I can't talk about personal choices because then it just sounds like mumbo jumbo. It's like different language. Now I'm just talking this language, obstacles, man. There's so much inequality. We really need to fight for justice and bringing about a greater sense of equality and giving people fair opportunities. And if everybody had the fair opportunities, we wouldn't see the problems that we see today, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I could just talk for days and weeks and months about that. Okay, but that means I can't talk about the other. And if I talk about this, personal choices and all the things that go along with it, then I can't talk about that. And so what happens is, what we see is that people are taking one side or another, when in fact you have to take both sides. The two have to go together. It's pretty clear that you definitely would not be sitting here but for those people who came along in your life. But then you say, like, okay, well, hang on a second. But maybe they come along in your life and helped you because you were a cool kid. Because you made decisions that I'm going to be a nice kid. I'm going to be a nice person. I'll be responsible, right? You didn't go to their house and trash it, right? Okay, so now you're a nice guy. And so you come along, look at you. You seem like a nice guy. So if I'm your neighbor or something, I'm like, this Logan kid? Come on, man, we should help him out. If you were a jerk, I probably wouldn't, but you made choices to be a nice guy, right? So I'm like, hey, maybe we should help Logan out. Personal choice. But those people were essential for who you were. If you didn't have them, you wouldn't be here. You said that, and I think you're probably right. You would not be here. And so, the two are fused. You can't break it apart. This is white wealth. This is all white wealth. So if you take all white families in the United States, and you take all of the money that they have, including the value of their homes and big purchase items like cars and RVs and pickup trucks, whatever the case is, right? And you subtract all the debt, that's wealth, okay? Now, it doesn't say how much it is. It doesn't really matter. It's trillions, okay? But here's how it's divided. The wealthiest 10% of them, so if we were to line them all up, all the white people up, and we take the richest 10%, they control 75% of all the wealth. That's just a lot of wealth. And then here's the next 10%, and the next. And then we get down to the lower 50%, basically has no wealth. Here's the problem. You guys, the two of you represent the lower 50%, okay? We're going to put you down here. And the two of you represent the top 10%. How are you going to get to be where they are?
You have to have the drive and motivation to work hard. Got to work harder than everyone else.
No. Yeah, what would you say? Wait, did you all hear that? Did you hear the answer? Dude, okay, go ahead. What would you say?
Marry rich.
Okay, right. Dude, yeah, exactly. Why did I say no to your answer, dude? That's probably that may be the only answer, but nonetheless. Why do you think I said no to your answer, bro?
Some of the barriers.
Yeah, like you're not like. What do you mean, dude? You gotta go down. You gotta go down to his neighborhood, man. They own 3/4 of all the wealth, the richest 1%. You're down here, man. You got nothing. Like, how are you gonna get up there in a lifetime, even? Like, work harder than everybody, dude. You think they're not working hard? You gonna work harder than them? They're working pretty hard. She's working hard. Jack's, he's making sure he has a little bit of time to play, but it's also his first semester. It's only 5 weeks in. Dude, they're working really hard. You're not gonna work harder than them. So now what? Now what do you do?
I guess I have to marry rich.
Yeah, dude, exactly. Yeah, right. But what happens is, but let me just tell you, most likely, I see the two of you would be the two that would get married because you have something in common together, right? And the two of them, no. And the two of them would be two people who would most likely get married because this is what happens. Like it's like a culture thing. It's like a thing. Look, here's the problem, bro, right? Do you want to answer the question? Here. Do you want to try it? Go ahead.
I mean, if I weren't answered to marry rich, which I feel like you just said in one single lifetime, that's like the easiest way to really get up there.
Yeah.
Is to marry rich. But if that wasn't my direct answer, I'd say I don't want to say it's impossible, but it's very close to impossible. But
Okay.
I know that I can make very distinctive strides to make sure that not my next generation, but the generation after that is able to go there. So I don't think.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So I just don't think it's very possible for me to get there, and I'm okay with that. But as long as I set my children and my grandchildren up with the tools so that they can get there.
Okay, yeah, exactly. You may not get here, and your children may not get here. Maybe they're going to get here, which is like awesome. And then maybe the next kids, look, climate collapse will probably.
I was going to say we'll be out in 30 years.
Yeah,
anyways.
that's all good. But nonetheless, here. So the problem is, Logan. The problem is this. It's like I asked you, what do you have to do? And you say I got to work really hard. I'm like, you just missed all the obstacles. Like you don't even know what the obstacles are. They're invisible between here and here. Okay, and you guys, the two of you, you're not the mega rich at all by any stretch at all. You are not, right? You're not really rich. I mean, you're very well off, but you're not rich. So you don't even see the obstacles. It's like I have Penn State students a lot of time. They're like, oh, I want to be CEO. I want to work on Wall Street. You want to work on Wall Street? And you're at Penn State? Like, do you have a parent that works on Wall Street or something? And if so, why are you at Penn State? It's like, you know who you're competing against? You're competing against the kids, the students at like the top university. Penn State's a good university, but we are not blue blood university here. You know what I mean? It's like people don't even understand the nature of the kinds of competitions that are out there, even the structural barriers, right? And this isn't, and I'm not like killing your dream here. What I'm doing is saying this is a fair assessment of what's happening. You have no choice but to say, I'm going to have to work hard, because that's part of the equation, right? Unless you want to just keep playing the lottery, in which you'll never win. You have no choice but to say, I want to work hard. Because if you say anything other than that, if you say, I'm just going to hope to get lucky, then you're never going to get there. So you have to say, I'm going to work hard. That's always part of it. But also, this is the sociology part. There are these barriers that you don't even see them. They're like, you would have to hop over these. You would have to, like, if you even want to be part of the C-suite world, like I watch kids at Penn State go to job interviews at the Smeal Business College wearing a brown belt and black shoes. And I'm like, what the fuck? Dude, they're going to see you from a mile away and be like, you do not belong with us. It's like, look at those shoes. Man, shoes with like scuff marks. I'm like, dude, you are never going to get that corporate job that you're wanting dressed like that. They smell you a mile away. Like, it's just not part of it. That's a barrier. You know what I mean? It's like learned stuff. It's all this stuff. But the two of you work hard. You do everything you can do. It's just like me. You know what I mean? Like I'm working class. I'm not some big whatever big pay. That maybe my kids could have been, but when I graduated college, my mom asked me, when I graduated high school, when I was getting ready to graduate, my mother asked me, "What are you gonna do?" And I said, "I don't know. I think I'm gonna play music." And she said, "Well, the courthouse is hiring court stenographers. You know, the people that like type." And she said, "You'd be good at that because you type." My mother wasn't saying, "Hey, why don't you be an immunologist?" You know what I mean? She worked part-time for an anesthesiologist. She could have said, "Why don't you be an anesthesiologist? Because they make a lot of money." Because we didn't do that in my class. And you know, my mother didn't say computer science or engineering or anything. We didn't know anybody that even went to college. So like, I wasn't going to do any of that. But all I could say is, I'm going to work hard. And when I encounter the obstacles that I'm going to encounter, I'm going to do my best to overcome them. So the problem is, not the problem. It's like, it's not a problem. I'm not killing their dreams. What I'm doing is saying, you have to, because what happens is, you start thinking, the rest of us start thinking that the only thing they need to do to get there, or to get here, so their kids can get here, is the two of you just got to work really, really, really hard. But what's happening is, even if you work really, really, really hard, there are all these other things that are happening that are in play that separate these people right here from these people down here. And like, I don't even know what those are, because you're going to keep working hard. No matter how hard the two of you work, they're going to work just as hard. So remember when we did the stair thing? It's like, the two of you aren't going to stop. You're going to just be like, "Yeah, you know what? We're just going to stop and you all are going to do your thing." It's like, no, you're going to keep going too. And that means if you're already starting up here, you're likely to end up there. If you don't work hard, then I can guarantee that you will fall backward. And they can afford to fall backward a little bit. The two of you can't. And so that's an advantage that you have.
I mean, the only other thing I can really think of that's kind of related to this is like when I was younger, growing up, my dad would always say, yes, I have a very good job, but I also was very, very lucky to get here. Because, I mean, yeah, to like you're saying, yes, work hard, but also everything kind of has to line up. Because like all of the, so like you decided to go work here instead of here, and that might have led to you getting this position because this company was deciding to hire and this one side wasn't, or this guy needed a promotion, this guy died, this guy got fired. Like there's some, yes, working hard is very important, but also there's a lot of luck and rolling the dice of if you're going to get as far as the people in that top decile go.
Yep, luck and chance. So now listen, look at this. This is net wealth on the basis of race in the United States. This is on average, right? How much more net wealth on average? I talked about this a few weeks ago. On average, white people have. So now if we do the same thing here that we just did, what do you tell black people, Hispanic? We're going to have a class on Asians, by the way, and explain that. Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans. Like, what do you tell them? Hey, you all need to catch up. What do they do to catch up? All you can say to them is just work harder. But I'm like, well, hang on a second. What about the obstacles there? What about other things? What else is going on? And because the white folks aren't going to stop working. They're going to keep working. They're going to keep accumulating wealth. So like, what do we do here? This is the conundrum of this class of Social 119. This is what we're laying out here. And what's at stake here is always decisions that people make and factors and forces outside of our control. This is my final statement. Black and brown people are often talking a lot about the obstacles. It doesn't mean that black and brown people aren't also talking about personal responsibility. It's just that they're often talking about the obstacles. And white people are often talking about personal responsibility. And sometimes black and brown people talk so much about the obstacles that they neglect to have the conversation about personal responsibility. And sometimes white people talk so much about personal responsibility that they neglect to have the conversation about the obstacles. The two go together all the time.